All right, what's up, everybody? We're going to talk about Walther PDPs, one that I've been shooting a bunch of here recently. Now, if you've subscribed to this channel, or you watch me on any of the social media platforms, or you've been to a class, you've probably seen me shoot this thing. This one is a steel frame match, meaning it is the 5-inch full-size version with the slide cuts up front. The match comes with the full send trigger, and it also comes with a mag well, which I take off. This particular gun, it's got well over 100K on it at this point. Like you can see, it's not. I'm not gonna say it's clapped out, but like it's been around for a while. It's definitely been around for a while. Nothing wrong with this gun. I love shooting it. But I will go through phases where, I'll be shooting a gun and I'm like, I'll look at another one on the shelf and I'm like, I wonder what I could do with that one. I'll like set that thing down and I'll grab another one. And I'll just like start nerding out shooting a completely different gun. Now, it's not super different. It's just, this is the polymer frame. That's the steel frame. This is the polymer frame match. So it's still 5-inch full size gun. But the polymer guns do handle a little bit differently than the steel frame guns. Steel frame guns, the way I try to explain it is, it's a little bit easier to shoot at distance. So because it's heavier, like shooting it at distance, like it's going to return a little bit easier to targets, where the steel frame, I'm not going to say a con, but like one thing about heavier guns that is definitely harder are transitions. So you have to just pay a little bit more attention on transitions. Like if you give it too much juice because of how heavy it is, it will go by the target. Whereas if you have a polymer frame gun, it's just a little handier on transitions because it's a little bit lighter weight. However, it is not going to handle at distance like the steel frame gun will. Pros and cons to everything, but I wanted to pick up the polymer frame again and start shooting it a bunch. And that's kind of what I've been doing with this one. But I wanted to go over how I set these things up because it's pretty minimal. Like you guys ask me about this stuff all the time, and I'm always like, and it's just like a couple things that I do to these when I get them. So the match gun, again, will come with the full send trigger. Also comes with a mag well, which I take off. First thing I do to any Walther PDP, whether it's polymer frame or steel frame, is I change out the guide rod and spring because they come oversprung. And I usually pick, a guide rod from ZR Tactical. That is the place to go for guide rods and springs currently. There's a bunch of different guide rods to choose from. It's kind of like, man, just pick one and kind of go nuts, right? Explore, the different guide rods and springs. See which one you like the most, because what I have found is some people like certain things, some people like other things. What I gravitate towards is the long stroke guide rod and spring, which you'll notice is definitely longer than the OEM guide rod and spring that comes in these things. So the deal with this is it allows the slide to travel a little bit further on the frame, thus making the gun a little bit softer. It does feel a little bit slower, but I think that's just a perception thing, because I can shoot this just as fast as, one that doesn't have this long stroke guide rod and spring in it. So for me, it's like it hits the hand a little bit less, and I tend to like that. That's kind of why I gravitate towards these. So long stroke guide rod and spring from ZR Tactical in this one. Now, I do know, I haven't checked their website in a while, but I know several months ago it said that you cannot run that in the polymer frame PDPs. That has not been my experience at all, at least in the newer polymer frame PDPs. I know in the older ones, what will happen is, since the long stroke guide rod and spring allows the slide to cycle further back, the ejector in the older ones are situated a little bit differently than they are in the new ones. And what happens is, as the slide goes a little bit further back than what the OEM allows for, you will see this thing like bottom out on the ejector. Now, that does not happen on this one at all. You will see a line, okay, in the ejector there That is not a gouge, it's not a scratch, none of that stuff. It's literally just a place where there's no carbon. But I've had zero reliability issues out of this thing, and it's been totally fine with the long stroke guide rod and spring in it. Zero complaints out of it. So long stroke guide rod and spring is what I typically gravitate towards. Also, while I have that off, one thing that I do to the trigger return spring is I pop that thing out and stretch half of it, like you can see there. If you plan on doing this, take it out, stretch it slowly, because if you go too much, like ugga dugga the thing, you're pretty much hosed and you will need to buy another one. So if you're not real mechanically inclined, I would not touch that at all. But if you are and you think that you can do that, it does lighten the trigger press by about a pound. So it does make a pretty big difference. Going forward, or back I should say, is I put a Lock Grips brass back strap on this. The brass back strap from Lock Grips just adds weight in the correct place, or where I would like weight to be in the gun. I like the weight in guns to be at the back of the gun, not so much at the front of the gun. If it's at the front of the gun, like a big heavy light or something like that, it just makes it to where it's not as handy as a lighter front end, but I do want some weight into the gun just to make it a little bit easier to track, especially at further distances. So brass back strap from Lock Grips adds a little bit of weight to the gun. I like that quite a bit. Moving up, I've gotten a Rise Manufacturing lowrider plate. This is the one that does not allow for the shroud, like their Aegis system, like this one, like it has the screw holes for a shroud to go over top of the optic to protect the optic. This is just a plate, so a little bit lower than the Aegis, and it does not allow for the shroud. And then the optic that I've got on here is the Holosun 507 comp. Out of almost all of the optics that I've tried, this one has been totally bomb-proof. You know, probably 10 years ago, people would cringe at that, you know, with it being a Holosun, but this one has been totally great. I have zero complaints about the Holosun 507 comp. I've kicked the crap out of these things. I've put a ton of rounds on them, and they've been fine. So anyway, that is the Walther polymer frame PDP, the match, 5-inch full-size match. And that's basically all I do to these things outside of shooting them. So if you guys have any questions about how I set these up, drop them in the comment box below.